Hey y'all, it's
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is continuing on with the Letter of James series that I started. I did a video on James chapter 1 and what the book means to me. What the chapter means to me. Some things that I've learned through studying it, and just some stuff that I want to just share with you guys with everything that I've learned. So we're back today. We're going to talk about chapter 2. And chapter 2 is already a shorter chapter, so I don't know if that's to your advantage or mine when it comes to editing this video. Either way, you know, it's just gonna be a little shorter and that's okay. One thing I forgot to say about my Bible in the last video is that it's the English Standard Version, which means that that's the version it is, the English Standard Version. Which is why it might be a little bit different. If you're reading along from like the NIV or the King James Version, it's gonna be a little different, for which I apologize, but you know, I can't do anything about that. I didn't say this in my last video, but I put the link in the description box. The link of where you can buy this Bible if you want to be twinsies and matching and have the same Bible as me. I put the link there. We're gonna go ahead and start, and if you watched my last video, you know that what I did is read from my Bible, and I have the words up on the screen for you guys, and I personally designed those slides, so I feel really proud of them. I just read through the chapter and I stop in certain places that are meaningful to me or something I want to talk about or just something important to point out. We're gonna start now. Chapter 2. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. For if a man wearing a gold ring and fine clothing comes into your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothes also comes in, and if you pay attention to the one who wears the fine clothing and say, "You sit here in a good place," while you say to the poor man, "You stand over there," or "Sit down at my feet," have you not then made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Okay, let's make our first stop here. This, interestingly, is one of the things that the guest pastor talked about in the live sermon that we do for our church that I watched this morning, talking about how because of sin and because of division, even in the church, we've created barriers, you know, even from the time when there were separations between Jews and Gentiles in the church. Today, in the same way, we tend to segregate based on race or culture and ethnicity. The division caused by us not celebrating those things and instead merely tolerating them are all results of sin. And so, you know, like it's saying here, the distinction that people make based on money and your wealth, that's not something that pleases God, and that's not something we should do. Distance ourselves. Well, you should be distancing yourself right now, but on a regular basis, you shouldn't be splitting up into groups based on what your class or your social standing or, you know, wealth is. So, first 4 verses, that's what that means to me. So let's keep going. Listen, my beloved brothers. Has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he has promised to those who love him? I'm gonna say something that I said in the last video. When this book is talking about rich and poor, it's not saying, again, financially or based on wealth, it's based on things of the spirit. So if you're poor in the things of the world, it means that you're not idolizing money or fame or anything that you can acquire here on this earth. It means that you're poor in material things. Well, actually, not even necessarily. That you are not going after material things because you're focused on becoming rich in the spirit, rich in the treasures that you'll have in heaven. And then in the same way, when it condemns the rich, it's not saying like eat the rich, you know, like it's not saying if you're rich here on earth, you're going to hell. Like no, not in the slightest. It's saying, well, if you're rich in the things of the earth and not in the things of the spirit, then that's not good. So yeah. But you have dishonored the poor man. Are not the rich the ones who oppress you and the ones who drag you into court? Are they not the ones who blaspheme the honorable name by which you were called? Okay, and so continuing, you know, with what I was saying, it's not saying the rich people, like materially rich. It's saying that people who are so focused on obtaining things in this world and their own goals in this life and stuff, and not on going after the Lord and drawing closer to him and furthering his kingdom on earth, they are going to try and deter those who are trying to follow the Lord and to try and grow closer to him. And they'll do that by, you know, just trying to make life difficult for believers. So that's what it's saying. Why would you want to be like that? Why would you want to be like the people who are going after the things of the world if what they're doing is hurting others and they're not loving the people around them? Don't be like that. Don't be like that. If you really fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become accountable for all of it. This is something that's difficult for all of us to remember, and I include myself in that category. Like, when I do something wrong, I think, oh, it's not that bad, you know? Like, I didn't murder anybody. In God's eyes, all sin is the same, and there's no sin worse than any other kind of sin. Reminding myself of that, holding myself to those standards is a challenge, but it's totally worth it in the end. You're keeping yourself accountable so that it's something less on your conscience, I guess. For he who said, "Do not commit adultery," also said, "Do not murder." If you do not commit adultery, but do murder, you have become a transgressor of the law. So speak and act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. The biggest thing to remember when reading those verses is that God showed the ultimate mercy to us by sending his son to die for us, to spare us from not being with him in eternity. That was the biggest mercy that anyone could ever show anyone. And so because of that, when we are contemplating our own sin, or when we're thinking about what others have done, that truth that not only is no one's sin bigger or less important than others, but that also all of us have been shown mercy by God. Because of that, we all need to show each other mercy when we fall into sin, when we feel like we're gonna judge other people for their sins. I mean, that's not our place. We don't have the authority to judge others. We can help keep each other on the right path because that's one of our responsibilities as believers, but it's not our place to judge other people. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Now hold up just 1 second, because this is a very controversial topic in the church. It's led to a bunch of divisions between like different churches, and so I'm gonna delicately approach this and just say some things about what I can't say for sure. What I believe is that your works should be a result of your faith. If you have a faith that's truly seeking God and you're truly trying to grow closer to him by learning about his character, your works are going to reflect that. That desire that you have to grow closer to the Lord is going to be evident in your works. Basically what I'm saying is your works should not be what you're doing to try and get faith. That's like the other way around. Works will come as a result of your faith, and that will become evident to the people around you. Yeah, and so I don't think that it's saying like go to charity events every month and volunteer at orphanages. Obviously those are things that you should do. They help you to learn values that are important to have as believers, but you know, it's not condemning you for not doing that. It's saying that those things should come as a result of you wanting to serve others and to learn more about God's character. So that's what I think about that. Oh yeah, and one other quick thing I wanted to say. If you guys have watched my past videos, you know that I like Jackie Hill Perry. She is a theologian, but then she does speeches and seminars, she raps, she sings, she the whole package, man. And one of the things she talked about in a podcast that she does with her husband, it's called 30 Minutes with the Perrys. In that podcast episode, she talks about how in the church sometimes there's people that like look at the real problems in the world and they say, you know, it's not real because I have faith in God, so I can ignore it. It's not a real problem to me. That's not true. You can't do that. This passage, it's saying if you see a real need that someone has, don't just say, you know what, I'm gonna pray blessing over you and walk away. Like, no. If that person is coming to you and they're saying, I have this problem, I mean, we know that God is all capable of taking care of us, but if that person's coming to you, it's God giving you an opportunity to help them, to show love to them, and you shouldn't turn them away. Well, not turn them away, but you shouldn't just say, I can't do anything, so I'll pray a prayer blessing over you and go on my way. No, make an effort to help the person and to take care of their real needs, their like physical, worldly needs. So yeah, I wanted to say that really quick. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. See, that's exactly what I said before. That's exactly what I said before. You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up his son Isaac on the altar? I mean, that's some tea, right? Those are some facts, because James is saying in these verses that your faith should be so strong, like trust that he has a plan, to the point where your faith will drive you to do maybe sometimes insane works. For anyone not familiar with this story, in the Old Testament, God told Abraham, I want you to sacrifice your only son Isaac. And God had promised Abraham that his descendants would fill the earth and that the Messiah would come from his line. So obviously, this being his only son, Abraham had all the reason to doubt God and say, I don't believe this is from you. I don't think this is gonna turn out so good. But instead, he chose to have faith in God's promises and to say, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. I'll go. And, you know, spoiler alert, God honored his faith and said, since you've done this, first of all, you don't need to kill Isaac, because here's a substitute ram or lamb, which is a foreshadowing for Jesus dying on the cross. And second, I'm gonna continue to make these promises to you because of the faith that you've demonstrated. That was before people had the same faith that we as believers have today, you know, because Jesus wasn't alive then yet. Although he wasn't on earth at that point yet. It's saying, have this wild faith, have this faith that's so incredibly driven towards wanting to be closer to God and to hear what he's trying to tell you, that you'll do insane things. Insane does not mean, you know, you go around killing a bunch of people, because that's not the point of that passage at all. To follow God's voice like Abraham did. So let's keep going. You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was completed by his works. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, and he was called a friend of God. You see that a person is justified by works, and not by faith alone. And in the same way, was not also Rahab the prostitute justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? Again, if you guys aren't familiar with this Old Testament story, basically Rahab was a prostitute who lived in the city of Jericho. And when the Israelites were told by God that they were going to be given the land, they sent in two spies, the two spies in question, to go and, you know, scout out the territory. So when they were there, they were taken in by this woman, Rahab, who hid them in her house and said, you know what, I know I've done some bad things, but I believe that your God is greater and that he can deliver me. So promise me that if I hide you, he's gonna deliver me along with your nation, your people, and that my family and I will be spared. And so God saw the faithfulness that she had despite her past and honored that and did spare her and her family, to the point where I don't know what's going on outside right now. That's a little bit scary. Honored her to the point where she became part of the genealogy of Jesus, and she was in his ancestry, and she's in the Hall of Faith. I think that's what it's called. And so, like Abraham, God saw that faith and said, I'm gonna honor you for that and continue to bless you for obeying me. So it's saying, have a faith like Rahab's, where your works are so crazy and so wild that they reflect the strong faith that you have in God. For as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. Once again, that's just confirming what I said before, that you can't have faith without having evidence in the works that you do, and you can't have genuine works, oh my goodness, something is going on out there, if they're not being backed by your faith, if they're not coming from that heart of wanting to grow closer to the Lord. So that just confirms everything I said before. That is the end of chapter 2. It's a shorter chapter, like I said. Chapter 3 is another short chapter. In fact, chapter 4 is the shortest chapter, but you guys will see that in the next couple videos. I hope that you guys were able to learn something cool. Cool is a weak word. I hope you guys were able to learn something insightful and applicable to everyone's life, because I feel like this can apply to all of our lives in one way or another. I hope you guys were able to understand the things I was trying to explain and how they apply to my life personally. Yeah, I'll be back with the chapter 3 video sooner or later. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. God bless my homie. Bye.
Hey y'all, it's